On today's episode of Be Chic DIY, we will be making this beautiful purple calsilica anklet. Just look at the beauty of that. Looks like little geodes on your ankle. Absolutely gorgeous. Come along with me as I show you how this is done. Let's go. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Be Chic DIY, where today we will be making our beautiful purple calsilica stone anklet. So over here, I already have the stones. They're beautiful. It is real stone. This is real calsilica, and every stone is just a little bit different. So you can see it has like a geode effect over here. And then we'll also be using some of our 3mm rainbow crystal rondelles. So sparkly. All right, let's go ahead and get right to it. So the very first thing we're going to need is going to be our black nylon cord. This is stainless steel black nylon coated cord. It's very durable. It works very well against protecting against rust and sweat. Especially, that's important, especially if this jewelry is going to be up against your body. And this one particularly, your ankle. All right, and so the very first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and string on our 2mm silver tone ball and a bright silver tone daisy spacer. Let's go ahead and follow that up. Let's go ahead and follow that up with a rondelle crystal, rainbow crystal, another spacer, just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and get one of our calsilica stones, just like that. And then we're going to follow it up with a spacer, a crystal, another spacer, and let's continue with the pattern. So the next pattern is going to require, or the next part of the pattern is going to require a silver ball. And so this is a completed pattern. So it comprises of a 2mm silver ball, a sandwich of a daisy, a crystal, a daisy, and then a calsilica stone, and then the daisy sandwich repeated on the other side. So you can see here, this is the pattern. This is what we will repeat through the entirety of the anklet. So let's go right on through. We ended it with a silver ball, so now we need to get a spacer, a daisy spacer, a crystal, spacer, ball, calsilica, spacer, crystal, spacer, and then a ball. There we go. And that's the pattern. So let's go ahead and bring it together so you can see what it's looking like coming together. Isn't that pretty? Can you just imagine an entire line of this? Well, I guess you guys will see it in a second. So at this point, since this is just a repetitive pattern, we're going to go ahead and do lightning speed. Ready, set, go. We just finished stringing up our anklet. Here's the finished pattern. Doesn't that look pretty? So the only other thing we have to do is go ahead and tie up these ends. And so the first thing we're going to use, where are those crimp beads at? There's one here, and there's one over here. Okay, so we've got 2 crimp beads, and then we have our extender chain and our clasp. All right, and so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and string on our crimp bead and our clasp. And as always, I make sure to double check that these clasps are functional first before I go ahead and string them on, and this one is. So we're going to fold over that string, restring this crimp bead back on the tail string and the main string. And going to go ahead and bring in a few beads to join it. Okay, just like that. Okay, and then I leave about 1 millimeter or 2 gap between the very end of that loop and the crimp bead. Then the only other thing we have to do is crimp down that crimp bead. So I like to do a few times on this side. Let's flip it back over a few times on that side to make sure that's really crimped down. You don't have to be super hard. You just need to make sure it's forcefully, but not too forcefully. You crimp that down. And then we can go ahead and get the rest of the beads in to string and hide that tail. Now, some people ask me, Leilani, why don't you just cut that tail? And the reason being is because if you cut it and your beads do not align correctly, you see what happened? This little end can stick out over here, and then having that rub against your skin will cause irritation, be itchy, sore. So I just kind of hide that tail with the other beads. So with that said, we can go ahead and bring all the other ones down to join as brothers and sisters. And I do not cut my string off the roll as I'm beading, and the main reason why it does reduce waste is if you cut too much, then you're left with a whole bunch of extra string. So I like to just leave it on the roll and cut as I go. At this point now, I'm going to cut the anklet off the roll, and I'm going to go ahead and do it for about 3 or 4 inches of length here. And now I just have to repeat like I did on the other side, which is crimp. And in this case, we have our extender chain. And here at Be Chic, our extender chains are linked on to a split ring like this. A split ring is just like a mini keychain. It's kind of swirled around like a keychain is. And I like using that because it's a more secure fit and instead of using a jump ring. Because if you use a jump ring, sometimes you run the risk of your jump ring coming loose or, you know, bending a little. And the next thing you know, you have a gap, and then there goes your anklet, and you lose it as you're walking. Now I just like the other side on the clasp, I went ahead, I put my my crimp, I put the extender chain or the split ring, and I left this little gap over here, and I went ahead and restrung a few beads on. Now at this point, if you see, I can't close my crimp because I'm going to have over here this gap. Okay, so the way you get rid of that gap is you go and get a tool like a round nose plier, you insert it into this loop over here, and you kind of just crimp down. Okay, then you want to get a hold of just the tail here like this. Go ahead and pinch down on that tail, letting go of the main wire, and then release a little bit of your round nose plier, and then you're just going to want to pull. Okay, pull like that, and now you've tightened up that string, you see? And then you can just go ahead and wiggle it around a little bit, make sure you get that as tight as you want on the loop end. It does take practice. Practice makes perfect, that's what they say, right? So the more times you practice, the easier it'll get. Don't worry guys, if you fumble a few times and your beads go flying everywhere, that is normal. That happens to every beginner. Okay, and now at that point you just crimp down that crimp bead, fold over your anklet just a bit to expose that tail, and then get as close as possible to that bead with your flush cutters and cut that excess string. Okay, and there you go. You see no tail sticking out to irritate anklets or ankles with this anklet, and we have a finished product. Let's go ahead and clasp this together so we can see what it looks like. Let me go ahead and move some of my organizing board out. And there we go. Isn't she gorgeous? She's absolutely pretty. Guys, I really hope you had fun making this anklet with me as I did with you. We are growing our YouTube community, so please like, share, subscribe, tick that bell so you will see other episodes that are coming out in the future. And as always, be chic, be happy, and be inspired. Love you. Bye.